Well, Congressman Darrell Issa has been calling for an investigation for some time. He's the ranking Republican on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, and he's threatening to file an ethics complaint if Congressman Sestak doesn't, reveal what happened. Congressman Issa, I'm delighted to say, joins us right now here on the Lou Dobbs Show. Good to have you back.
Well, thanks for having me on, Lou. And the amazing thing is, before Congressman Sestak had won the primary, we were trying to get the White House to just tell us the honest-to-goodness truth. Who said what, and why is it they think it wasn't criminal? Well, Joe Sestak made statements that made it appear as though 3 felonies were committed, and we're just trying to get it resolved honestly.
Yeah, and the White House doesn't seem too eager. When they say that there is nothing inappropriate, how do they know?
Well, I think they know because I think Rahm Emanuel probably offered the Secretary of Navy position. That's one of the worst-kept secrets, that's likely who did it and what was offered. And protecting Rahm is a high priority for the White House.
Well, now, if he indeed did that, would that be appropriate?
It would be a crime. It would be about 3 felonies, and we delivered the list of those felonies that would result, if that was exactly what was said and how it was said, result to Eric Holder. I mean, we made it very clear. Look, this is an allegation of a high-level crime perpetrated by the White House. Are you going to investigate it? And, of course, Eric Holder told us that we have no problem at all investigating, except now we're being told that lawyers have already cleared this without justice being brought in at all, and yet they're not telling us who it is. And it's very Nixonian. It's not even Bushette, if you will. Certainly under the Valerie Plame situation, one that I was involved in and oversaw some of it, where the White House, took forever, and eventually it led to some of the worst things that you could have happen in politics, including the resignation and conviction of Scooter Libby. That's not where we want this to happen. If there's been something done wrong, get it out, get whoever it was appropriately dismissed or punished, but don't have a cover-up that goes on forever of a credible allegation. I don't think you can have a 3-star admiral and U.S. congressman, now the Senate Democratic nominee, make a straightforward allegation and repeat it and not consider it credible. We're not calling this a felony. Joe Sestak is.
Yeah, and it's odd that, well, the idea that Eric Holder would be the man in charge of the investigation, I have to believe that's going to be a tough one because he doesn't even read the laws that he criticizes. Is he really, do you think, a man of such integrity that he would actually do something?
Normally what happens properly is that you go to a U.S. attorney or an assistant U.S. attorney in the region, and you assign them the special task of being effectively the independent investigator.
Right.
And that person does what they're sworn to do. Apparently, Eric Holder is not willing to do that. It's not for the AG to do it themselves, but it is for them to see that it gets done. As far as we can tell, no outside person outside of the White House staff has been there to ask Rahm or whoever it was that made the offer what they said and to have them properly characterize it. But remember, unless the White House says, Joe X said this, it's impossible for us to go back or you to go back to Congressman Sestak and say, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Because it is possible that Congressman Sestak took it one way while it was said another. But if you don't know what was said, you can't know whether there was a misunderstanding. And certainly Congressman Sestak is not implying that there was any misunderstanding. He's been very specific.
And he didn't say this just once.
Not even just 10 times. That's the one thing I'll say about Congressman Sestak is he has not deviated from, I was offered a job if I got out of the race. He's been very unambiguous about it, although if he lived up to the Navy ethics code, it would require that he not tolerate others who commit crimes, and it's very clear that somebody else committed a crime by offering him that job.
Well, and the idea that Gibbs goes on Face the Nation, says point blank, lawyers in the White House have looked into the conversations and nothing inappropriate happened. What makes anyone in the national news media think that it's an appropriate response to have. I mean, it would be like asking the general counsel of BP to check into whether or not they think BP has any liability here. It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And more importantly, when you have a spokesperson, Robert Gibbs is a spin meister. Some might even say a paid, not liar, but stretcher of the truth, hider of the fact. That's what the press spokesman does. Is they make statements that are not necessarily accurate, but they're the statements that the White House wants to put out, and it saves somebody going on the record. That is the reality. Here we have somebody who's not accountable, not elected, and they're going to tell us that nothing inappropriate happened. Well, they won't tell us what happened and who said what. If he had simply come back and said, we have reviewed this, and they were not offering Congressman Sestak a job, but in fact talking about X, I wouldn't be necessarily satisfied, but the American people and the press might be. Right now, I'm not satisfied. The press isn't satisfied, and the American people are completely dissatisfied.
You say the press isn't satisfied. Who in the press isn't satisfied? Because it seems to me there's been very little critical judgment applied to this issue and these claims and these charges.
I agree with you that there's been very little criticism. What there has been, though, on Face the Nation, Meet the Press, is continued questions. And the politest way to disagree with this administration is to keep asking the same question when you don't get a good answer. And that I'll give the mainstream press some credit for. They're obviously not happy with the answer, so they keep asking. It started off, as you know, as Fox asking and not getting answered, but it's now become virtually every network asking the same question, not getting an answer, but continuing to ask it. And that's going to go on from now until the 2012 elections if this administration doesn't come clean with something that the American people and the press can say, okay, it's been resolved. Because you can't have an allegation of a congressman of a crime just sit there forever. And very clearly, this is not something that gets resolved by a press person saying we don't see a problem.
Let's turn to politics. Daju in Hawaii picking up a seat for the Republican Party, at least for a matter of some months, in the president's home district, if you will, in the state and in the district in which he was born and lived.
Disaster comes down to.
What was that?
Oh, sorry.
Not at all.
That was what happens when you click your computer while talking. I apologize.
Well, no. By the way, I've done that myself, Congressman. So, as disconcerting as it may be, but what do you make of it, and how much should be made of it?
Nothing should be made of it. He's a well-qualified individual. He'll serve honorably, but anytime you have two of one party and one of another, and in this case, Republicans were the beneficiary, you don't put a lot into it. A 30 or 35% win is unlikely, although possible, but unlikely to turn into a 51% win in the fall. Right. The same could be said, obviously, of New York, and we see that as the opposite. We had a two-way race there, and a Democrat came out where otherwise a Republican would have gotten John McHugh's seat. And I hope no one's trying to have any glee for it. This is an individual who's giving up his city council seat. He's coming to serve in the Congress, knowing that the odds are very, very long that he'll get reelected.
Do you agree with those who say the odds, though, are improving nationwide for Republicans to do very, very well? Or is it, Congressman Issa, time to start talking about managing expectations? Is it too early for that?
Well, I think it's too early to predict which way the American people will vote in each district for a reason. They're still trying to get comfortable that Republicans get it, that it's about the economy, it's about jobs, it's about reining in the size of government, and at the same time looking for ways to help America be more competitive in a world that is competing successfully against us. Right now, President Obama ran on that message, and he has broken the trust. But are they ready to bring Republicans back in? Have we learned that the social agenda is not the primary problem they see, and certainly they don't see Washington having, quote, Republican solutions, that in fact the American people are looking for Washington to stop trying to give them solutions with their money or borrowed money.
Right.
If Republicans can be clear about that, that it is the economy stupid and it's the borrowing and the spending in Washington, then I think we will have earned our way back. But if we can't be clear about it, then they're going to say those are the guys we fired 4 years ago. Why are we rehiring them now?
As one who has just criticized Rand Paul, the new Senate candidate for the Republican Party in Kentucky, for his misadventures with his mouth when it comes to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and 5, when it comes to the idea that he is saying accidents happen. Is this somebody who is really mitigating the opportunities for the Republican Party if he continues to speak in such a, I would say, just utterly bizarre way?
Well, I've served with his father.
Right.
And I've seen Ron Paul make votes that he can explain why he makes them, that I don't make the same way, because he is, for better or worse, kind of an absolutist. What I think we all have to accept is this: Rand Paul, when he gets to the Senate, or Ron Paul in the House, they don't offer us a destination, but they offer us a direction. And if Republicans want to be credible to the American people, they're going to go in that direction, but not necessarily to that destination. You do the same thing. I've watched you for years.
Mm-hmm.
You're not telling us that we need to agree with Loud Dobbs on everything, but you are telling us that the American people want us to go in another direction, and if we don't start going in that direction, we do so at our peril. That's the message, I think, of that election in Kentucky, is that the American people want a change in direction, and they will vote for somebody who may be beyond where they want to go, but at least is in that direction undeniably.
Well, and that direction involves smaller government, constraint in government, understanding, appreciating the limits of power, and being honest about those constraints, those limits, in the direction we're headed. Do you think it's enough to carry the day come November?
I hope it is. I hope that people will understand that until Washington can say, you know what, I could help you, but I'd be helping you with money I borrowed from China and Japan. Therefore, I think you should help yourself, because it's neither constitutionally required nor is it good judgment for me to borrow money that is going to have to be paid back generations from now in order to take care of, for example, keeping teachers from being laid off. We'd all like to have our classrooms for our kids be reasonably sized, but should we do it with borrowed money? The answer is pretty clearly no. I'm hoping Republicans get it, that it's popular to say, I'll take care of your problem. It's just wrong.
Arne Duncan, Education Secretary, calling for $23 billion for teachers, yet the public sector employees, union employees, saying they'll give the Democrats pledging $100 million for their coffers. Is there a problem there or am I just imagining things?
Well, my father died many, many years ago, but he worked for General Motors. And when General Motors was beginning to not look like they had all the right ideas at where he worked, my father would never say anything bad about him. And he told me when I asked one time, he said, "Whose bread I eat, whose praise I sing." The truth is, the Democrats are owned by the unions, and the unions are beholden to the Democrats. It doesn't mean that what the Democrats are doing in the way of slowing the inevitable need to reduce the amount we spend on education, particularly on the pay of teachers and benefits, they're just not going to go there. They're not going to say it, even though we need to say it. But Americans also need to expect from the Republicans that we're going to say, we can't have unlimited dollars for defense. We can't have unlimited dollars for things that Republicans care about. We're 40% overdrawn at the bank every single day because we're spending that much more than we're bringing in, and we're already taxed more than high enough.
Congressman, I'm going to have to leave it right there. My producers are screaming at me for being over. But the reason we're over is because I enjoy talking with you, and I know our audience enjoys listening to you. Congressman, appreciate it. Darrell Issa, come back soon, will you?
Will do, sir. Thanks.
Take care. We're going to be right back. 877-55-DOBBS, 877-55-DOBBS.